Hi, I'm Corey Wells with the League of Women Voters of Murfreesboro and Rutherford County, and this is Plan Your Vote. Whether you are new to voting, new to Rutherford County, or considering perhaps voting absentee this year, this guide is for you. A number of local residents, as well as some of my fellow League members, will be joining me tonight in this video to share 3 reasons to vote, 3 ways to vote, and 3 steps that you can take now to make sure that you and your friends or co-workers get to the polls. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization, so tonight you won't be hearing us support any particular party or political candidate. We only want to support you, the citizen and voter, in understanding the voting process this year. Before I introduce our first guest, an important thing you may be wondering is whether you are registered to vote. If you're not sure, you can check your voter registration status online at GoVoteTN.gov. You can also download on your phone the GoVoteTN app. You'll hear us refer to these sites and also the Rutherford County Election Commission site, as well as another state website shown here on the screen as we go along in our conversation tonight. Now, if you are not registered now in Rutherford County, it's too late to change that for the November election. If you are registered and you've just moved and you want to change your address within the county, you can do that when you vote. If you need to change your name, then both the app and the GoVoteTN.gov site will tell you more about how you can do that prior to voting. Now, maybe you are registered, but you're not really sure you want to go to the trouble to vote. What difference does it really make anyway? Well, here is my friend Cam Mitchell to talk about 3 reasons to vote.
Hi, my name is Cameron Mitchell. I'm a spoken word artist and teaching artist. I've done a lot from Nashville to Murfreesboro, and I just want to talk to you guys about voting. I know many of you may think your vote doesn't matter, but hear me out. Voting is so important, especially when it comes to the state legislation and the local levels, because that affects our daily lives. So it's not just the federal government. It affects things like me as an artist too. And maybe your vote doesn't win. It's okay because those elected officials pay attention to the districts that have the most votes. I even think about the people who fought for our rights to vote over 100 years ago. Carrie Chapman Catt said this: to the wrongs that need resistance, to the right that need assistance, to the future in the distance, give yourselves. Give yourselves like a seed to be cast into the ground, like the ballot that you can vote with. They may not see something tomorrow or the next day, but can be the fruit that bears much in the future. I'm a poet, and my voice is my vote. So make your plan to vote.
Thanks to Cam for sharing his thoughts about the importance of voting. I hope something he said may convince you to cast your vote this election. So, if you're going to do that, how exactly are you going to do it? Well, there are 3 ways to vote, and we're going to talk about all of them. First up, here is League member Randi to talk about early voting in Rutherford County.
Hello, my name is Randi. I am a lifelong Murfreesboro resident, the graduate assistant for the American Democracy Project at MTSU, and a member of the League of Women Voters in Rutherford County. I want to talk to you about early voting. Early voting is really the best plan this election year. It's safer, takes less time than it would on election day, and if something comes up on November 3rd that would keep you from the polls, you're already covered because you voted early. Early voting for the November 3rd election starts October 14th and ends October 29th. Early voting is pretty accessible here in Rutherford County. As you can see on the Rutherford County Election Commission website, early voting sites include 1 location in Laverne, 2 in Smyrna, and 6 in the greater Murfreesboro area. These are easy to map in the GoVoteTN app. The Rutherford County Election Commission on the Murfreesboro Square, that's where I always vote, is open every day but Sunday. They're open 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday and 8 to 2 on Saturday. All other locations are open 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday and 8 to 2 on Saturday. If you work all week, Saturday is the perfect day to take advantage of early voting. There are no reasons or excuses needed to vote early, and if you need, you can change your address or name while voting early. Here's what you need to vote: a state or federal government issued ID, so your driver's license, passport, or military ID. And that's it. It's really so easy. So please exercise your right, stay safe, and make your plan to vote early.
Having Randi tell us about early voting options reminds me that they are a student member of the local League of Women Voters, and student memberships right now are free. So go out to our site, lwvrutherford.org, if you're over 18 and a student, and you can get more information and fill out an online form to join. We'd love to have you. So I hope you didn't miss the fact that Randi was saying the League really believes that early voting is the best option for most people this year. However, maybe you are like me and you really love the tradition and the excitement of going out on Election Day itself. Well, here is League member Eltra to tell us more about voting on Election Day.
Hello, I'm Eltra, and I am a member of the League of Women Voters, Murfreesboro, Rutherford County. I'm here to ask you to vote. Early voting here in Tennessee begins this week, but if you're one of the people who really love voting on Election Day, Rutherford County has 28 convenient polling places where you can vote this year. And it's open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So you can vote on the way to work, to school, vote while you're on your way to lunch and while you're running errands. They make it so convenient. Guess what? If you don't know where to go, they have a fantastic app. It's called GoVoteTN. And you can map out the place that's closest for you while you're out and about. Please, please vote Tuesday, November 3rd.
Thanks to Eltra for telling us about voting on Election Day. She'll be back with us in a little bit to talk about making a voting plan. But right now, we have now talked about early voting and voting on Election Day. Our third option, absentee voting, is something that we're going to wait about until the very end of this video, because we know everybody doesn't necessarily need that option. So now, though, we're going to talk about whether you're going to the polls early or on Election Day. There are things that you need to bring with you, and there's things you need to be aware of in terms of what you wear or maybe what you don't wear. Here's Amelia to tell us more about that.
Hi, my name is Amelia Clark, and today I'm going to be showing you what's in my bag voting edition. So the first thing I'll bring with me when I vote, my keys. So my keys help me get to my local polling place, but if you're struggling with how to get to yours on voting day, both Lyft and Uber are offering discounted codes this year as a way to make transportation to the polls just a little bit easier. Lyft is offering 50% off of any one ride up to $10, and Uber is doing a similar situation up to $7. These codes are accessible on their website as well as an app and are only redeemable the day of voting. So the next thing I will absolutely get is my valid form of ID. So for me, that is my Tennessee state driver's license, but it could also be your passport, military ID, handgun carry permit with your photo, basically any photo ID issued by the federal or Tennessee state government. And what's so cool about this is they don't even have to be in date. They can be expired and you can still use them. However, not all ID is created equal when it comes to voting. Things like your library card or your college ID, city-issued ID, or photo ID issued by another state are unfortunately not valid forms of ID because they were not issued by the federal or Tennessee state government. The next thing I'll be taking with me is my mask. Not only does it keep me safe, but it keeps the people around me safe. However, it's not required to vote this year. We talked about what people could wear, a mask. let's talk about what people absolutely should not wear to voting. Unfortunately, you cannot wear any kind of campaigning material inside of a poll. So this means clothing, buttons, stickers, face paint, any of that kind of stuff. Any sort of campaigning must take place more than 100 feet from the door of the polls. So, who is exempt from all of these requirements? To put it plainly, probably not you. Voters who vote absentee by mail, voters who are residents of a licensed nursing home or assisted living center and will be voting in facility, voters who are hospitalized, voters with a religious objection to being photographed, and voters who are indigent and unable to obtain a photo ID without paying a fee are the only people who are exempt from these requirements and have separate voting requirements that are on the Tennessee state website. The very last thing that I always take with me to the polls is my favorite lavender chapstick so that I can not only stay moisturized, but give my biggest, brightest smile to democracy.
Let's hear it for smiles for democracy. Thanks, Amelia. I want to add to what she said. You can take your phone into the polling place. And in fact, if you are using your GoVoteTN app to remind you of the candidates that you've marked that you want to vote for, that's just fine. But you cannot be on your phone having a conversation, and you cannot take pictures while you're in the polling place. So keep that in mind. Also, just wanted to share again what Amelia mentioned with regards to getting rides to the poll. There is your Lyft code. There's some information about how you can get the discount from Uber. We have heard from the Democratic Party that they are offering free rides on Election Day and during early voting. We checked with the Republican Party and did not hear back by the time we had to produce this video. But I would encourage you, especially as we get closer to Election Day itself, to keep your eye on social media and the news. I feel like there will probably be more organizations that are offering free rides. So now you know where to go, when to go, what to take, what to wear or not to wear. How do you know what's on the ballot and who are you going to vote for? Well, this is where the GoVoteTN app is, again, really a very helpful resource. Or you can go to GoVoteTN.gov and you put in your address, and it's going to tell you for your district everything that you're voting for. Remember, we're not just voting for president. So, for example, the folks who live in Laverne are going to have a different ballot than me, who lives in Murfreesboro, because you've got Laverne Alderman on your ballot. And in fact, the league had a forum for those candidates recently, and it's out on our website if you're interested in learning more about those candidates. Also, just going on to the election.rutherfordcountytn.gov site, you can look up the sample ballot for all of the municipalities that have a local election in Rutherford County, and of course the state and federal options that will be on the ballot as well. Now, though, I want to introduce some folks who are going to talk about how they learn about the candidates and make that decision. And this is Kara and her husband, Tony.
Hello, everyone.
Are we on here?
We are.
Oh,
We're on
my
here.
goodness.
There he is. Hello. This is Kara Kemp, and you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Tony Kemp.
Oh, and we're here to talk a little bit about some voting, because you know what, everybody? It's election time in Tennessee.
Tennessee. That's right. And I think I am going to be early voting this year.
Well,
That's right, because I heard from one of my buddies down at the Hardee's that they'll be giving away donuts from Donut Country down at the polling if you go early. Is that right?
that is not accurate information, Tony.
Well, I'm still going to vote early. I don't want to stand in line.
Well, I'm glad that you are going to vote
That's
early.
exactly right.
But do you know who you're going to vote for?
I know who I'm going to vote for, but somebody said to me also down at the Hardee's, that there's more stuff on the ballot than just the president.
Yeah.
Well, that is confusing to me.
Well, that's why you got to do your homework. I know you have not always enjoyed doing your homework.
Let's not be telling everybody everything.
But do you know how to do that homework when it comes to election time?
Well, I'm sure you're going to tell me to Google it.
Almost. But
Almost.
So here in Rutherford County,
That's right.
there are a couple of ways.
Borough.
There are a couple of ways to be able to do your studying up on your candidates early.
Studying up.
Now you can contact the Rutherford County Election Commission. They
That's
have a
right.
website. You can
That's
look
right.
on there.
That's right.
There's also on this handy dandy thing called a telephone.
Telephone.
There's an app called GoVoteTN.
GoVoteTN.
Yep, and
All
you
right.
can put in where you live on the app,
That's right.
and it will show you everything that there is to vote for
That's
in your
right.
district and whatnot. And you can even mark the things that you like on it.
Okay. There is one more way. You can go down to the Hardys. Almost everything you're wanting to know is talked about down at the Hardys.
That's true. That is true. But if you're going to do some real research and maybe get your own education, I might ask you to navigate towards the app.
Look,
or the
all
Rutherford County
these
election.
politicians sound the same to me sometimes. It's just like a lot of noise,
I feel like there's a lot of noise in my house right now.
Alrighty.
But it's true. They sometimes do all sound the same.
Yeah.
But that's why you need to do your due diligence to look up their information.
Okay.
And they have variations on education and economy and environment. And there could be some other things that start with E, electrolytes or electrons. They might differ. They might be sporty like you are. And they might need
my good buddy Elroy growing up, he said he wouldn't vote for anybody for dog catcher. And right now, I think there's some of them in there that ought to be the dog catcher.
Well, that means it's real important for you to be able to vote then. And so I'm glad you're voting early. And I may not agree with Leroy, you said?
Elroy.
Elroy.
Good Lord. Leroy's his twin sister. Come on, Kara.
But you might be able to just accept some differing opinions from Elroy and Leroy on who is for dog catcher.
Yeah.
But you definitely would want to be able to look them up and see what they're all about, right?
All right.
So check out the candidate's website.
Yeah.
Check out the candidate's campaign materials.
That's right.
See the yard signs that are around in your neighborhood.
That's how I know who to vote for.
Do some research.
Signs you put out in our yard. That's not true. Look, I may come across as slightly ignorant, but it's just slightly.
He just plays one in our home.
I just play one on TV. I do know who I'm voting for and why I'm voting for him. And it's important to me. And it was important to my dad and my mom growing up. I voted the first time when I turned 18 years old. And I haven't missed one since. So I want to encourage you to get out and vote. It is so important. The one thing my daddy used to say was, all the time, he'd say this: if you don't vote, you don't get to complain. So I know a lot of you who love to complain. So you need to vote.
Just so it balances out in the world. Plan your vote. This year, it's a big election, but also remember, your local candidates really do change and really do help govern most of your local pieces of life. So check them out, do your research, and plan your vote for Rutherford County. Early voting starts Wednesday, October the 14th.
Wow.
So it's right around the corner, everybody.
Wow.
Plan the vote, rock the vote.
That's right.
And make sure you have a voice.
And vote for Tommy Davidson for dog catcher.
Stop it. He's not on the ballot. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks to Kara and Tony for making voting fun. Now, just for the record, this video is not being sponsored by Hardee's, although for all the times that Tony mentioned it, maybe it should have been. Clearly, he has got biscuits on his brain, if not voting. But no, seriously, I want to add to what they said by mentioning that the league really encourages you to consider a candidate's website, their campaign materials, and how they interact on social media and represent themselves there and in person at forums and debates. It's really good to be wary of candidates who use phrases like un-American or who are making big promises without actually having real plans that they present. Also be wary of a lot of finger pointing, and I know this happens on both sides, but all of us need to expect civil discourse, and we need to let our candidates know that that's what we want. So now you know what all is on the ballot. You've decided who you're voting for. Now, what does the process of voting actually look like? If you've never voted before, or you've never voted here in Rutherford County, you might enjoy watching a short video from the Secretary of State website listed here, this address. And also, you might want to look at what voting on the machines that are used in Rutherford County looks like. And you see the webpage for that as well. That lists all of the machines that are used in Tennessee. Here in Rutherford County, we use the Microvote Infinity machines. So you'll want to scroll down and you can look at either an image or run a video that shows that process. Now, most of the time, voting is a smooth and pleasant process, but once in a while, perhaps something could go wrong. And if you should have a problem, the most common problem would be that you might have not brought the correct sort of ID, which of course we talked about what was needed earlier. If that happens, you can ask to vote on a provisional ballot, which means that you still cast your vote, but you have to come back within 2 days to the Election Commission with your actual ID. This is also an important part of the absentee process, and Marian Ott, our state league president, will be talking more about that in just a bit. There could be other issues that you run into. And the first thing that I want to encourage you to do is first stay calm, stay polite with the poll workers. They are working long hours and they're not there to give you a hard time. They are there to make sure that you can vote. However, if they're saying you cannot for some reason, that's because of their understanding of the rules. So the first thing you should do is go back outside and get on your phone and call the Rutherford County Election Commission. Our election commissioner, Alan Farley, does a great job and is so professional. And again, I think is going to do everything he can to make sure that you can vote if you can legally do so. If, though, there are still issues that you have, there are a couple of other resources to be aware of. One is that the National League of Women Voters has an election protection hotline. That is at the number 866-OUR-VOTE. So you can call that to report an issue if you need to. Also, based in Nashville, WPLN and ProPublica are doing a project to track voting and any voting issues all across the state of Tennessee. And you see there a website that you can go to get more information regarding that. So we don't have too much more to talk about, but I do want to talk about making a plan to vote. And Eltra is coming back to talk with me about that now. Eltra, we have learned a lot in this whole video about voting, right? Reasons to vote, ways to vote. Let's talk about making sure that we make a plan and following that through, and maybe also encouraging our friends to vote. Now, are you an early voter or do you like to go on the day?
I used to go on the day because of that excitement, but now as life has gotten more hectic, I early vote. And my goal is to always go that first day because it's still a little bit of that excitement in the air to see how everything's going to be. but also with life, I make sure I go that first week at least of early voting.
Yeah, I think that's a great plan. And that tends to be what I try to do as well. If something goes wrong that first day or two that I'm planning and I don't get to it, that's all right. I've still got plenty of days to make it. I'm like you too. I used to take my children with me on voting day to walk up to that machine and cast the vote, and they're voters now, and I'm glad of that. But not everybody has that experience. And I hope that what we've shown today helps people feel more comfortable about going to the polls.
Exactly.
What
Exactly.
about encouraging people, though, that maybe never have been or they haven't been in a long time? What what can they do?
I think they can make it a group effort. Sometimes you need that accountability partner or just ways to make it fun. So for me, I've already talked to some girlfriends, and what we're going to do, we're going to vote, but afterwards we're going to go meet for lunch. So we're going to make it that way. And we all have to show our little I voted stickers. So that way, that's also some accountability, because it's one of those things. Okay, where's your sticker? And then, like what we've done in the past, we take a picture of all of our stickers in a circle, and then we post it to social media. We live in that age of social media, so let people know I am a voter, my vote will be heard.
Yeah, that's great. I love that idea. Um, I think that reminds me that another thing you can do, if you're on Facebook, you can go out there for your profile pic and look for a frame. You can just do a search on voting. There's little frames that you can put around your profile pic to say you've made a plan. And now you work in education. I imagine you're probably encouraging students to go out to places, some of these online pledge places.
Exactly.
So Rock the Vote is a place that people can make an online pledge that they are going to vote, and also go ahead and think through the friends or coworkers that they might encourage to vote as well. So
Exactly. I mean, everybody can do their part. You know, everybody can show their patriotism in their own way. You may want to, if you work in an office, decorate your cube that day in red, white, and blue, or maybe wear that to the polls. The goal is to make sure that you are part of the process.
that's right. That's right. That's how the process is set up, and we want everybody engaging in it. And yeah, absolutely. I think it is our patriotic duty. It's a responsibility. It's a right, and it is a privilege that I hope more people will take advantage of. So, well, thank you so much for chatting with me today about voting, and maybe I'll run into you at the polls.
I hope so. Like they say, see you at the polls.
All right. Thanks, Eltra.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks again to Eltra for talking with me about voting and about making that plan to vote. And again, this is a challenge to you right now to get out your phone, look at your calendar, put a reminder on the date that you think is going to be best for you. Tell someone or tell everyone that you are planning to vote, because studies show that although this does not work on your mama to say, oh, everybody's doing it, it does work when you talk about voting. People think, oh, well, she's voting, he's voting, I should be voting too. So talk about it, claim it. Claim being a patriot and doing your patriotic duty, regardless of who you're voting for. And now we are finally ready to talk about absentee voting. And for that, please welcome our state League of Women Voters of Tennessee President, Marian Ott.
Hope you're listening to this because you're making a plan to vote. I'm going to talk to you today about one of your options, which might be absentee voting by mail. The first thing I want to say about it is, if this is something you're considering, you need to get on it now. all absentee ballots have to be back in the Election Commission on the day of the election, and they have to be mailed. So the first thing we need to know about absentee voting in Tennessee is that you have to have a reason or an excuse. The common ones include being 60 or older, being in college out of your home county and unable to come back and vote, being ill. And ill during this election includes if you have special underlying conditions that make you particularly susceptible to COVID, or if you're a caretaker for someone defined by ill, and caretaker includes somebody who lives with a person who's ill or has particular susceptibility to COVID. There are other less commonly used excuses. You can find all of these at GoVoteTN.gov. And you're going to hear that a lot, GoVoteTN.gov. So let's assume that you meet one of those criteria. Perhaps you're a college student that's going to be out of state on election day. The next step for you to do is to request an absentee ballot. You have to do this in writing, and you have to have what's called a wet signature. So again, you can go to GoVoteTN.com or go to the Rutherford County Election Commission website or your local county election commission website. And there's a form that you can download. Please be careful to fill it out completely. It includes the requirement that you provide your full Social Security number. You will not get an absentee ballot without providing it. You must also sign it. Then you can either mail it back, or probably the best way, if you have the ability, is to scan it and email it back to the County Election Commission. When the County Election Commission gets your request for absentee ballot, it is going to compare it to the voter rolls, make sure you're on the voter rolls, and then make sure your signature compares so that they know that it is you. And if you pass all of that, they will mail you out an absentee ballot packet. Special comment, if you are a first-time voter, that you may get some special instructions with your absentee ballot, because it is new this year that you will actually able to vote by mail. You may have to provide a copy of your ID or some other proof of residence, but you will get specific instructions from the County Election Commission when you get your absentee ballot. When you get this packet, be careful to make sure you follow the rules completely. Use a pen, blue or black, to fill out the bubbles in your ballot. Put the ballot inside the affidavit envelope. Make sure you sign the affidavit envelope, and then put it back into the return envelope and put a stamp on it. These ballots must be mailed back. They will not accept them in person at a polling place or the election commission office, and there are no drop boxes in Tennessee. It is the law in Tennessee that absentee ballots have to be received by mail and have to be in the election office by election day. I can't stress enough the importance of first following the instructions to make sure that you accurately sign the affidavit, that you put your ballot and only your ballot inside the affidavit envelope. We do know from prior elections the reason some ballots, not too many fortunately, but some do not get accepted is they're not signed, or for some reason two people are voting absentee in a household and they put both ballots in the same affidavit envelope. In that case, neither ballot counts. So please be careful to follow the directions. Now you're concerned, okay, I mailed it, but we're getting close to the election. How do I know that my ballot got there? Well, again, you go to GoVoteTN.com, and there is a registration and absentee ballot lookup, and you can check there to make sure that your absentee ballot has in fact been received by the County Election Commission. Well, what do you do if it's not been received by election day? If your absentee ballot has not been received by election day, I encourage you to go to your polling place, and in Rutherford County, that's any of the vote centers, and ask to vote provisional. You will, it's a little bit more complicated process, but you do get to vote. It is on paper, and they will then compare that provisional ballot to the absentee ballots that they received. And if in fact they did get your ballot, they will toss the provisional ballot. If in fact they did not get your absentee ballot, they will count the provisional ballot. The last thing I'd like to say is if you have any problems with your absentee ballot, that you can't resolve, or you go to try to do a provisional ballot and you can't, the election officials won't let you, we encourage you to be in contact with the League's National Election Protection Hotline, which is 866-OUR-VOTE. So please make sure you have a plan to vote. And if it's an absentee plan, get on it now so that you can get it mailed back in time. And if you have any more questions about absentee balloting, I suggest you go to the League's website, which is www.lwvtn.org.
Thanks to Marian for sharing her expertise with us. Well, I think that about wraps it up. But if there's something that you have a question about that we didn't address, know that you're welcome to put it in the comments on Facebook, or message us on Facebook, or email us at lwvrutherford@gmail.com. When it is not election season, you might be interested to know that our local league typically has monthly programs on a number of issues that affect us at local, state, and national levels. We also, this summer, started a community conversation series in which we meet virtually in very small groups to discuss current issues such as racism and anti-racism and getting out the vote to so many Americans who choose not to engage in the election process. We welcome both women and men as members of the League, and we're proud to have been serving Murfreesboro and Rutherford County since 1957. Keep in touch with us on Facebook, on Instagram, or on our website, lwvrutherford.org. We hope to see you at a future program, but before that, we hope to see you at the polls. Remember, your vote matters.